intro to your door approach. What should you be doing in the first 30 seconds of your door approach to trigger curiosity and engagement rather than reactance and resistance? Here I'm going to show you the door approach formula for your intro for those first 30 seconds so that you can take the majority of doors that open and at least have a shot at discovering if there's a problem to be solved and if you could potentially help them solve that problem. So your intro, the purpose of our intro, what are we trying to accomplish in those first 30 seconds? First of all, it's buying time. You're on the doorstep and people, for the most part, do not care much for a door-to-door guy on their doorstep. Unless you change the context, then you change the allowable behavior and they can actually care about you. So how do we buy enough time so that we can change the context and change the allowable behavior? First of all, we're going to disarm them. This is something that Miner talks about all the time, is always be disarming. And then second, we're going to create curiosity. And by creating curiosity, triggering engagement, we're going to draw them out to us, and they're actually going to be curious and somewhat interested in what we're doing and why we're doing it. So what does this door approach intro formula look like? First, we're going to ask a curiosity generating question. Second, we're going to create movement and entrainment. Third, we'll have a purpose statement. We'll basically establish our purpose for being on the doorstep. Fourth, we're going to take away whatever benefit we had just talked about with our purpose. And then fifth, we're going to ask a skilled question to transition into a two-way dialogue. Because in that two-way dialogue, that's where we can discover the problems, if our solution could possibly help, and then set that appointment. So disarming and creating curiosity. Something I learned my first year doing door-to-door, I had just a number of people who would stop me in my approach and they'd say, wait, why don't you tell me who you are and what you're doing and why you're here? Like I would just go straight into like looking for problems and trying to solve problems. Like, I don't even know who you are. Like, what are you doing? Like there's a little bit of this resistance. So the way that I personally now disarm people when I first knock on the door, first of all, I'll walk away and I'll be looking away so that they can speak first. And then when I greet them, I'll tell them my name and I'll smile. And I'll put my hand on my chest and I'll tell them I don't actually have a ton of time. I can't stay super long. And so that sounds like they'll say, hey, can I help you? I'll say, maybe, I'm not quite sure. My name's just Trenton. And I was wondering if you could possibly help me out for a sec. Yeah, I don't have a ton of time. I have to get going here in a minute, and then I continue with it, right? But just, dude, the hand to chest and the smile and the like smiling with your eyes and saying, hey, look, I'm a sincere person. I'm here to see if I could possibly help you out, right? Does a lot for disarming. And then creating curiosity, a curiosity generating question. The ones that I've seen be effective are somewhat vague, but they sound important or official or relevant. So some examples of curiosity generating questions. You guys selling the place? Or are you the homeowner here? Did you get the notice or the slip in the mail about XYZ? Has anyone told you about what's going on? Did the neighbors tell you that I would be stopping by? Did Johnny over there tell you about this XYZ initiative that was happening here in the neighborhood? And then we generate curiosity. Okay, then movement. The one I use almost every time, I turn and walk, pull them right out of the house. I say, okay, well, you need to see this. Hey, well, you probably noticed just how old the power lines are. Check this out. Look, hey, look at your neighbor's house over here. See this, and this. Or look at, right, like pull them out of the house, turn and walk, point and look, right, movement, look over here. Or another one, slicks in the hand, right? Like you have your laminated paper, an electric bill or something, right? You put into their hand, you say, hey, check this out. Maybe they're not coming out of the house. You can get something in their hand to help open them up as well. Curiosity, movement, and then our purpose statement. We need to establish a purpose for being there on their doorstep. And I've broken this down, what I found to be effective, because you can say it quickly. It feels like you're getting to the point quickly, so people don't get as impatient. Your purpose statement is going to be made up of the problem, the solution, sometimes a benefit, and then you're going to pull it back. So what does this look like? And I start vague, and then we gradually get more specific as the value is there. So in the intro, the problem I'm talking about is usually not the exact rate per kilowatt hour, the very specific problems to them. The problem I'm talking about is very vague in general situation. And same thing with the solution. I'm not talking about, we'll drop your bill from $200 to $150. No, it's a very vague and general solution. So what's that look like? So the problem, the power lines are old, stress on the grid. They're funding grid hardening projects and it's expensive. They're charging us for delivery fees, wildfires, lawsuits, bankruptcy. big situational problems, which is why I'm there, because of subsidized programs, initiatives, other utility options, fully funded, retrofitting homes. So what's that sound like actually? It's like, yeah, there's so much stress on the grid that the state is actually allowing some other utility options to alleviate that stress off the grid. We're basically a solar power plant company selling electricity, right, with the power purchase agreement. Or you can combine another one, right? Like, you probably noticed just how old these power lines are. And with the wildfires and the lawsuits, they're actually, what they're doing now is they're retrofitting homes with self-generation systems in order to take some of that stress off the grid and essentially lower costs for homeowners. Now, I'm not quite sure we could do that. Right now, I'm adding the benefit on the end. Sometimes the benefit fits depending on which problem and solution you line up. If you can put the benefit in there, that's even better, right? Like, power lines are so old that they're doing this $2 billion grid hardening project. And because of that, I mean, it's, guess who's paying for it? Well, we're paying for it, right? Our electric bills are going up. But they're subsidizing some initiatives that are fully funded to help lower cost and protect your electric rate. Now we're going to take it away, right? I don't know if we could do that for you yet. Some people we can't even help. My job's just to do the assessments and see if it even be possible, which is why I should probably ask, and then we're going to ask a question to transition into that two-way dialogue. Like, probably ask, like, what was the main reason you chose XYZ power company when you moved in? Or like, would you be opposed to people having some other options to buy their power from? Or like, would you think it was like a bad idea if instead of buying solar panels, you could just buy the power that they produce? And that power costs far less than buying it off of the power lines. Those are just some examples. There's so many questions you could plug in there, right? But that formula of a curiosity generating question and then creating movement, establishing your purpose, taking it away, and then getting into that two-way dialogue where we can really start understanding the problems that this potential customer is facing. That's where influence can happen. That's where we actually have the opportunity to influence and change the context so that our potential customer, right, they see the context differently and now they have permission to behave differently.